Hello, happy Wednesday. So I enjoy cooking and trying new recipes out. And one recipe I've wanted to try for a really long time is pad gras prau. It's one of my favorite Thai dishes. So yummy. There's such a depth to the flavor in that dish. I don't know who I think I am by saying there's a depth in the flavor profile, but I was intimidated by the depth of the flavor profile. Anywho, so I got all my ingredients, I'm chopping up my veggies, and if you don't know what the dish is, that's totally fine. Just know that you need to use Thai chilies, and those are spicy. So I'm chopping it all up, sauteing everything, cooking it up, make the rice, serve it to my partner and it is so good. I am ridiculously proud because, again, I was intimidated by the depth of the flavor profile. Say that 10 times fast. And maybe 30 minutes after finishing, so let's say maybe an hour after cutting up my veggies, I'm noticing that the tips of my pointer and my middle finger on my left hand are a little tingly. I'm like, huh. And then kind of around the nail, where you might get hangnails, that starts to be a little tingly. And I think, you know what? It's probably from cutting up the red Thai chilies. I bet some juice or something just got maybe I have a little cut. Maybe it got in there. So I just kind of ran it under water, washed my hands again, and I thought, oh, this is fine. Cut to 2 hours later. My partner and I are watching Witcher, and at this point, the tingling has now changed to a burning sensation. And it's not just in my first two fingers, but it's in all four of my fingers on my left hand. Probably up to the first digit. Where Phoebe Buffay wears her little rings. I still love those. I would watch Friends. Anyway, it's burning, okay? So I think stick it in a bowl of ice water and that'll chill it down. I just need to ride this out. So I grab a bowl, fill it with ice, fill it with cold water, and I stick my fingers in it. I'm doing that for, I don't know, maybe 2 hours. And if my fingers are in the bowl, they're fine. But as soon as I take them out and they dry off or warm up a little bit, they're burning again. And it's now starting to rise to the middle of my fingers, that knuckle. So I'm starting to stress out a little bit, but I got my bowl and I'm just leaving my hand in there. My fingers are getting nice and pruny. Witcher ends, my partner and I are getting ready for bed, and my fingers are on fire, burning, 1,000 bee stings. I am now starting to slowly panic because in the beginning I just thought, whatever, it'll go away in 10 minutes. No, this has been hours since I've touched these peppers, and I'm just assuming it's from the peppers. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do to give me enough relief of the pain that I can just fall asleep, because I figure it'll be fine in the morning. So then my partner suggests that we use our aloe plant, who we've named Allie, and of course I've gotten so attached, and all of our plants are my children, so I can't look, but he cuts, I can't even say it, he cuts off, I was going to say an arm, he cuts off a piece of the aloe plant. We open it up, and I'm rubbing aloe all over all four of my fingers, and I don't know if it's just in my head, but it's not helping, and if anything, it's making it worse. So I rinse that off. Then I try some all natural, essentially polysporin. That's not helping. I try wrapping it up in lotion with bandages. Nope, stinging. I try Penitin, which if you don't know I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but it's diaper cream. But it's this thick white cream that comes in a tin that's colored blue. It's really great for pimples. That's why I have it. If you get a pimple, slap that on, go to bed, wake up, bam, gone. Also good because it's good for baby bums. It's good for sensitive skin. Anyway, I'm not a doctor, but that's just what I use. So I'm slabbing that all over. Does nothing. And if you know what Penitin is, you also know that it is so hard to get off of your finger. So then I'm trying to get that off with some soap. So my partner does some Googling, and that is when he discovers what is going on with me. It is called hot pepper fingers. And the name is ridiculous to me. Very accurate, but ridiculous. And in this article that he is reading to me, it is saying that anytime you cut up any hot peppers, from jalapeno to red chili to whatever, you should wear gloves. But here I was squeezing out the seeds with my naked little fingers. Then I was holding it if you're cutting a cucumber, hold it if you're right-handed, you're holding it with your left hand, and then you're holding the knife with your right hand. I was just doing this all naked willy-nilly. I don't even know what willy-nilly means, but just all reckless. And so a bunch of the chili oil has seeped into my skin, and that's what's causing the burning sensation. And here's the thing. The article says that the burning sensation can last from 30 minutes, sure, to a few days. So immediately I am asking him, what are all the home remedies that they say on there? A bunch of them we've already tried, but it says olive oil. So I have taken olive oil. I'm rubbing it into my skin for like a good couple minutes and then rinsing it off. Then it says use dish soap because that cuts the grease. I'm washing my hands with dish soap. Then it says yogurt or dairy products. Now, I don't have dairy products, but I do have coconut milk yogurt. So I pull an entire new tub out of the fridge, take it out, and stick my entire hand in it and just hold it in there. And that's when he says, uh-oh. And I'm like, what? And he says, this article says that you should not put your hands in water because the water causes the oil to spread. And I had been sitting for like 2 full Witcher episodes at least with my whole hand in a bowl of water. So no wonder it was getting so bad because it was spreading it up my hand. So I was just standing there in my kitchen feeling completely defeated. And my hand starts stinging again. And I'm confused why the yogurt isn't working anymore. And I realize the yogurt has now warmed up a bit. And the yogurt was never helping me. It was just the cold of the yogurt because the yogurt doesn't have any dairy fat to break down the oil. So I didn't know what else to do. I crawled into bed. I turned on my iPad. I put on New Girl. And I tried to distract myself from the feeling that my hand was on fire. And it lasted another hour and a half or so. And then I fell asleep and I woke up. Thank God my hand was fine. I did have like a blister or 2 on my pinky, but otherwise feels fine. So listen, this is my PSA, my Good Samaritan moment of the week. Please, if you are cutting hot peppers, wear gloves. And if you already knew that, and I'm the only person, which would make me feel like an idiot, who didn't know, I mean, kudos to you. Some great life knowledge you already had there. All right, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Liquid Courage, the podcast where I, Amanda Pereira, sit down with a fellow artist that I admire and ask them the questions I've never had the guts to ask them before. Sounds scary? Yeah, it really is. So I use a little liquid courage in the form of my guest's favorite drink. We cheers, chat, and connect as I attempt to soak up all the wisdom they have to offer. Today I sit down with Melissa D'Agostino and we sip on some red wine. Melissa is an actor, writer, director, theater maker, and filmmaker based in Toronto. Melissa has seamlessly flowed between the theater and film worlds throughout her career, receiving awards for writing, acting, and directing both nationally and internationally. Her performance in the digital series Tactical Girls won her the 2017 Canadian Screen Award for Best Performance by an Actress in a Web Series. And in that same year, Melissa co-founded the international streaming site HighballTV with her partner in art and life, Matt Campagna. Since its launch, HighballTV has been featured in Variety Magazine, She Does the City, and Melissa and Matt have been able to greenlight numerous feature films and give several directors their directorial debuts. It's incredibly impressive what they've built, so after listening to this episode, I really encourage you to check out HighballTV, either on Apple TV, Roku, or on your desktop. Speaking of directorial debuts, in 2022, Melissa made her feature directorial debut with the film Mother of All Shows, a film she co-wrote with David James Brock, starring Melissa and the Wendie Malack. Yeah, pretty cool. Mother of All Shows premiered at the Art of Brooklyn Film Festival and won Outstanding Narrative Feature as well as Outstanding Director of a Narrative Feature. So Melissa is an actor, writer, director, theater maker, filmmaker, and someone I admire immensely. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I was pointing before we started. We match. I chose this, like, my outfit was inspired by you.
What?
Yes. Yes.
What do you mean?
I was like, ooh, maybe I should dress, like, inspired by Tactical Girls.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then
That's
you
so
came
funny that
on
I
somewhat
picked,
similarly.
Like at camo time.
Yeah.
This is I got this in a clothing swap. I believe this belonged to Ashley Como, who, you know, love and is the best. And so so I'm wearing I'm wearing this. I'm so glad we somehow, you know, magically decided to match.
I know. We could kind of be sisters right now. All you need is the same color hair and the same similar shirt, right? Actually, speaking of Ashley, I didn't even clue into this. I was at your place of business with Ashley over the weekend.
Oh, for the reading.
Yes. And
Amazing.
I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'm talking to the boss on Wednesday. So this is
that's
cool.
So great. Yeah,
Beautiful space. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Such a rock star pad. And those shelves, the wall shelves.
Well, because it used to be, our office used to be, at one point, it was a textile company.
Oh.
And so they had bolts of fabrics. I think it was like curtains and fabrics. And so the reason why the shelves are all the way up to the ceiling and have that design is because you would just put all the bolts, pardon me, you would stack all the bolts up.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a cool part of the history.
Those are some tricky. I was saying with somebody like, you need like a Beauty and the Beast ladder because your ceilings are what? Like, what would you say? 100 feet high? They're so tall.
They're very tall.
They're so tall.
Well, because there's 2 stories. Basically, that's the height of both of the stories. I'm on the top floor now, where you were on the weekend reading. And so, yeah, we joked the moment we got into this office, before we even rented it, we were like, we're going to have to get one of those ladders.
You have to.
Like, slide across
and have birds chirp. Yeah, you got to do something. Oh my God, those shelves, it's like shelves, from floor to ceiling. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to have you here today. I have thought you were such a badass for many, many years. And I like sometimes to give context, like how we might know each other. So we don't really know each other. We've seen each other in passing. We both worked at the Toronto International Film Festival I worked for a blip. I think you worked there longer than I did, but more than a blip.
Yeah.
And I used to work on and off with your husband, Matt, in casting for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I know you by proxy that way, but not really. Like, and I've watched your show and Hype Night and, things like that. So, but we don't really know each other. So I'm so excited to have you here today and chat because I think you're wonderful. So.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, likewise, I feel like I know you from all of those in passing and from following you on socials and getting to know you that way and this program. And so, yeah, I'm delighted. Thank you for asking. What a treat. And to get to know you better and chat.
Yeah, I know, right? Because you don't really get that. That's one of the things, you end up sort of knowing, like in air quotes, knowing people for like, oh yeah, I've known her for 10 years. But you're like, no, but I've never had a one-on-one conversation. It's wild. So it's wonderful to get to do this. And I would love to dive in first just talking about HighballTV. Like it is so incredible. You gave a really wonderful speech at the Walrus Talks that I have watched multiple times about what led you and Matt to, no, it was so good, about what led you and Matt to starting HighballTV. No, seriously, I encourage people to go check it out on YouTube. If you just Google Melissa's name and you put in like Walrus Talks, HighballTV, it's compelling, it's eye-opening, it's empowering, like it's so badass. Cool. I feel bad asking you this to sort of do it again, but could you tell people what HighballTV is and how it came to be? Not that you have to give your Walrus talk by any means. I realize I shouldn't have plugged that.
I couldn't if I tried.
No, it's impossible. No.
I'm happy to talk about it. And thank you for those warm words. That was a very stressful talk for me. I was so nervous, and we drove to Halifax from Prince Edward County, and so. In the car, I was like on the computer rewriting it, and it was very stressful. So I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed it.
How did you feel right after you did it? How did you feel? Or I guess even a couple days after, were you happy about how it went?
My adrenaline is a thing where like right after I do a thing, I am so wired, and I'm immediately like, oh God, was that okay? And I'm replaying things in my head, but I'm also so energized by the experience that it's like I can't really function after I do those things, after I give a big speech. Or I used to do a lot of character and clown comedy, and I would do it in front of hundreds of people in these weird circus cabaret nights, and be doing crazy stuff that was so fun. But afterward, it's like I can't really function. I can't really talk to people. I can't really focus. Like my body has gone through a traumatic event, and not entirely bad. Like it's not a bad feeling. It's just a kind of otherworldly feeling. Like I feel very grounding myself afterward is very challenging.
It's very challenging,
but it was very empowering. Like it was an amazing group of speakers, and I was honored to be asked, and so it was a great feeling. But I'll get back to your question. Sorry,
Yes,
this is
yes,
going to
yes.
keep happening.
No. I'm interested in so many things. Listen, I'm going to try and stay on topic also. Okay, yes. Please tell me about Highball TV.
So Highball TV was started because Matt and I had made, we had been making content. I hate that word. We had been making film and TV and, web videos and all sorts of things for years before we met each other. And then also once we met each other, we started doing it together. And so we'd made a web series called Tactical Girls, which you mentioned earlier. And it had done, some good stuff. It had gone to some festivals. I won a Canadian Screen Award, and we were like, okay, let's try and make a second season of this because it seems to have some legs and we love doing it. And we were applying for funding. And at the time, and still, I think, in order to get funding for a second season, we needed a broadcaster. And in Canada, at the time especially, there were basically two broadcasters, especially for comedy. It was like you go to Bell Media, Crave, or you go to CBC. And we had conversations with them, and we had a production company interested in working with us who wanted to pitch to them, but they weren't interested. We had already made the first season. It wasn't really, they didn't really know if it was for their audience. It just wasn't a fit. And we found often, Matt and I, that we're very entrepreneurial. We make things ourselves. And it's hard in Canada then to get those things to go further. There's sort of there can be a kind of, what's the word, resistance toward that model, just because of the way our funding works and the way our broadcasting works. So we thought, well, what are we going to do? And we were in a meeting, and Matt was looking at all these digital broadcasters that were applying to Cavco to get status, to be broadcasters, to be considered broadcasters. And Matt looked at it, and because Matt has a history of coding, he looked at it and he was like, I can build that. We'll just build it ourselves. And so we became our own broadcaster in order to be eligible for that funding. We didn't get that funding. We came close, and we didn't get it. But then we had this thing we had built that was Cavco approved, which meant that it could access tax credits, which means you can sort of be in a production pipeline. That's very, very attractive in Canada to be able to do that. And so we thought, well, what do we do now? And then we started meeting other filmmakers. They had terrible distribution deals. They had all these projects that nobody could find anywhere. And so we started to build a catalog of a library of titles, really. And so it's a streaming service, but you can also rent titles and you can buy titles on it. And then through all of that, we ended up, when COVID happened, there were some financiers, film financiers, who didn't have films to finance because nobody could shoot anything because it was so dangerous. But Matt had a film that he had written, and Matt has a lot of experience with green screen. And because we could shoot a film one actor at a time with only him as the camera department, and basically there were only ever 5 people on set, he said we could shoot this whole thing very safely. And the financiers were very interested because they wanted to be making money and be, as capitalism goes. And so we happened to be in a position, because we had built Highball TV and because we had the experience we had, to make that film. And that opened the floodgates. Now I think we've filmed 8 films, 7 or 8 features.
That's wild.
And we already have several more in the sort of pipeline to finance, and we're releasing 3 of them this year. So yeah, that was just a timing thing. And the fact that we had built what we built, we were able to do that. So
wow.
Pretty wild.
Well, yeah, and you not the inception of it, but like released Highball TV to the world in 2018, right?
That was the hard launch. We had soft launched it the year before as a sort of beta test,
right,
to see what it was. 2018, we hard launched it when we acquired the film Drawer Boy, which is based on a famous Canadian play, wonderful play, and is a beautiful movie. And so we acquired that film and launched it publicly in 2018. Yeah.
Wow. From 2018 to now, like that's a lot of feature films to have made. And like like how it's wild.
And that's the feature films are only we made are only since 2020.
Wow.
But, yeah, it's a lot. I need a vacation.
You're like, I'm tired.
For sure.
Yeah. But that's incredible. It really is. And I okay, so for viewers, for people watching or listening that might not be familiar with like how you get money to make a film or how that kind of all works, not to ask you to like fully give us I'm not asking to have you be a professor, but for free. But just to like explain to people, how does creating and having HighballTV allow you to make and pay for 8 films, or like allow you to make these 8 feature films in a way that you wouldn't be able to have made if it was like just you and Matt without HighballTV making films? Like what is HighballTV? How does that make the difference, I guess, for people who might not be familiar with the system?
Yeah, so in Canada, we have a tax credit system. And so you can get a tax credit on a certain amount of the labor that you exploit or that you use in the making of films. And so the budgets that we work with are a combination of investment, financiers that come on board, loans. So there's a lot of different sources for the money that comes in, and the tax credit. So the budget is made up of all of those. If we didn't have HighballTV, we wouldn't have access to those tax credits in the same way, because we are a CAPCO approved, and CAPCO is sort of the governing body of that tax credit, of the federal tax credit, and then there are provincial tax credits, and every province is sort of different in terms of how they work. But really, we are able to do what we do because we have that broadcast. It's not a license, but that designation, if you will, as a digital broadcaster. So if we didn't have that, and when we didn't have that, before we had HighballTV, we were going and pitching and trying to find broadcasters and people who could provide that for us. And that's really hard. I mean, it's hard no matter what. Pitching and trying to get your films made is, hard no matter what. And certainly right now we're in the middle of, in the United States, a huge labor action movement, which is amazing. But it's different there too than it is in Canada. And in Canada, there's just so little domestic production that happens. We don't make all that much here. And especially in film, we have television. We sort of have made inroads there and partnerships where we're able to make more projects, but film is really hard.
Well, and even just thank you, first of all, for explaining all that, because I think it gives a really great context. Also, just it gives like such a great impression, I guess, or like representation of what a massive undertaking this is, or seems to be. Like for you and Matt to be like, okay, we're going to take it into our own hands. Like we're going to make a streaming site and we're going to make the films. And then all the all the knowledge you have to have and keep acquiring and stay on top of. And I don't know, I feel like you're coming in to sort of like save artists and content in a way, or save movies. Let's not say the word content. Save movies in a way. I truly do. Like, and what is like the biggest challenge in running your own empire like this, like running, having this, like, I imagine it gives so many freedoms and opportunities and like puts you in the driver's seat in ways that it's wonderful. And also I'm sure puts you in the driver's seats in ways that like make you, like you said, tired. So like what's the biggest challenge to running this?
Wow. The biggest challenge, well, certainly it's that currently I think I work probably, if I looked at all the different jobs I do, it's multiple full-time jobs at the same time. Partially because I'm an artist and that is important to me. And we started this streaming site because we were trying to make our own work. And the great thing about it is we can make our own work, and we have, and it's been incredibly rewarding. The difficult thing is the balance of now how do I make sure I'm continuing to tell the stories I want to tell and make the projects I want to make, while also making sure that the business is running. And we have a staff now, and really making sure that our staff is being taken care of, that they have what they need, that there's just so much to think about all the time. I think it's the biggest challenge for me is the relentlessness of it. When I was a freelance artist and really struggling financially and working multiple jobs, I was probably working as many jobs as I am now in some ways, right? They were just very different jobs. They were cater waiting, or they were standardized patient, or they were corporate work, or they were teaching, or all the things we all do as artists to supplement our income and survive. The one freedom I had then, I was struggling financially, and it was so tough, and I couldn't get projects to go, and all of that was very disheartening. But I could take breaks where I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's not happening. So I'm just going to take this break here. And there was a sort of, because I could let go of a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then come back to it. And I would say, I do not want to be back in that position. I feel very privileged and fortunate. And I'm so grateful and happy to be in a position where not only can I make things I want to make, and I can feel a sense of, financial stability that I didn't have before, which is a gift, that I can't even articulate. At the same time, I do sometimes miss being able to just be like, you know what, today I'm just going to go get inspired I'm going to go to the museum, and I'm going to pay the artist rate. And in the back of my mind was all of the stress of not having the means I needed and not getting what I wanted. But there was also a strange freedom there. And I don't think that I think it's entirely a freedom that can still exist in the current setup. It's just that we've been hustling so much. I also hate that word, but we've been working so hard for the past few years to get to this stage. And I think the hardest thing is balance.
Yeah. Even as you're speaking, I'm like, oh yeah. Cause then once you get the financial stability, it's like trying to keep it, or it's trying to keep building towards it, or whatever. I mean, I can totally relate, like having the jobs that when you clock out, you've clocked out. There is such a beautiful, simplistic freedom in that. Or I remember like being at a serving job and them offering like, hey, do you want to be a manager? And I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to come in. I'm going to do an amazing, like I'm going to work so hard, and then I'm going to get right out. And then when I'm not here, I'm not going to think about you. Like I'm not making a schedule for people. Absolutely not. I want the minimum responsibility, and I will put forward the maximum effort, but nothing else, because
there is. And it's weird because as I also acknowledge that, like, that also has its huge downside, right? They both have a kind of what's the word? Unpredictability. Like at any moment, the infrastructure of what we've built, a piece of it could change, and then you have to figure out what to do. I think that's always when you are building your own things, whether that's building your own company, in this case, a streaming site, or making your own projects, or building your own career as an actor, which is, to me, I think the thing we underestimate with artists, or that the public, the mainstream public really doesn't understand about being a freelance artist of any kind, is you are building your own company. You are your own company. And that takes an incredible amount of skill and discipline. And you have to know about budgets and math, and you have to make all your own boundaries in a way that is very different if you're just stepping into a workplace. And so I think we underestimate often what artists bring to the table in the world, because we have to do all the creative stuff and be open and inspired and show up and have those muscles. And we have to manage an entire system.
File taxes
all the time
as an artist, like all the things. Yeah, no, you're right. Like all the extra things, and often too, you do that if you, like, let's just say specifically you call yourself an actor. all the things you described about the business part of it, you're doing for a much larger percentage of the year, let's say, than actual acting. It's those things that become tiring. And those are the things I often think too, when people decide to make a change in their life from pursuing acting as a career to pursuing something else as a career and finding happiness in that. I don't know if it's often the acting than it is like all the stuff that comes with trying to get those opportunities in order to act and do that thing that you love. You know, I think it's all the other things that take people out.
I agree, because the acting can be so the acting jobs can be so few and far between. So it can be really disheartening, you know, to keep going, especially when you're not getting your needs met, and that's often the case, right? So I don't know, it's been a wild ride to feel the roller coaster of it all.
Yeah. And where did how did you and Matt come up with the name Highball? Where did that come from?
Honestly, we had come up with another company name. So we have a company called Gold Strike Pictures, which is our film production company. And we had come up with that name first because we were working with a business coach, and we thought maybe production was where we were going to start, you know, in building a production company. And so we came up with Gold Strike because we were like, okay, and that took us, you know, a day of us just sort of brainstorming and writing things down. And then when we then decided we were going to do this, we're like, oh man, now we have to come up with another. It was exhausting. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
That's one of my least favorite things, to come up with like a name of a character, a name of a script, a name of a song. I'm like, oh, feels like so much pressure.
Well, like, and I feel like a character in a song, even, I'm like, it's a bit easier for me, but like the name of like
a company, you're right, that's bigger than a
streaming service. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and there was like, at the time there was already Netflix, and there was Prime, or at the time it was still called Amazon Prime, I think, and Crave, and at the time there was also like Show Me and all these other companies that are no longer. But I remember I was lying on the couch in our living room, and I was just like calling out names, and he'd be like, I don't know. And he was calling out names, exhausted. Like, literally imagine me lying listless on the couch.
Yeah.
And then I looked over at our bar cart, and I just literally started naming things on the bar cart. And at one point I was like, I don't know, glass, cocktail glass. And I don't even know I don't remember if I said it or he said it, but one of us was like, a highball glass, highball. And then we just settled on highball. And then when we looked into the word, we discovered a highball is also the name for the green light when you're on a train track. And in the olden days, the lights when the light would go green, it was called a highball. And so we were like, oh, that's kind of a fun other meaning of it. We're not going to lean into that, but you know, we just like the sound of it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And we thought, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange.
I love that.
Not fun.
Yeah. Well, and you're probably like, okay, yeah, I'm so relieved you came up with a name that we both like. And then it's like, I hope no one asks me how I came up with it. Maybe. But the fact that you're green lighting your own projects. I mean, it works. Also, like, highball's a party. Like, let's go. Brings people together. Yeah. Glass half full. You know what? So many things.
I love it. You know what? I'm going to take all of those next time someone asks me. I'm going to steal all of those.
Great. Please do. You have me on record being like full. You know what? They are now yours. They are your credit.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're yours. You're welcome. Anything I can contribute, honestly. I'm such a fan of the company and of both of you. Speaking of that, what is it like having your romantic partner, your husband, like also be your business partner? What is that like? Because there's living together and lifing together and working together.
You do it all.
Yeah. What's that like?
It's mostly the best.
Oh,
and then there's that little bit of time.
Also,
well, thank you. Oh. I mean, we're also like, we acknowledge that we can be wonderful, and we can also be way too much. Like we're a lot. Like individually, we're a lot because we both have a lot of enthusiasm and energy, but then together, sometimes I feel like when we're around certain people, sometimes we'll be in a grocery store, and we'll be doing a shtick because that's what we do.
Of course, you got a shtick.
And I'll be like, oh no, this person is not having any of this.
They're not.
They're out.
They
They're
are
like,
not
Jesus
subscribing to this
Christ, who
channel.
are
Yeah,
these
yeah.
people? Get them away from me. And I look at them and I'm like, I understand.
Fair.
We are not for everybody.
Yeah.
No, it's mostly fantastic. When we first started dating, we met online. And when we first started dating, you know, a couple of weeks in to dating, we showed each other some of our work. My favorite thing is I was doing a cabaret show, and the name of the cabaret show was Melissa D'Agostino Breaks Up With You. And it was a bunch of my characters.
You can't invite him. That's weird. It's like, is it a double meaning? Oh, you did invite him.
I did invite him, and he put it in his calendar. And so he's like, so he'd get reminded. He's like, on Friday, Melissa D'Agostino breaks up with you. And I remember he told me he told his mom, and his mom was like, that's a strange name for a show. Are you sure you're not just going to go to that and she's going to break up with you? So he came. The
show's not real. He's like, is the show real?
And I was like, no, I created the show before I met you, I promise.
Yeah.
And then he came to see that, and then he showed me this short film he made that was amazing. But we were both so nervous about sharing our art with each other.
Yeah.
And then about a month into dating, we decided, okay, let's make something together. Let's see about making something together. And we were both very nervous about that because both of us are so creative and making things is such a part of who we are. We knew that if we were going to be in a partnership together and we didn't like making things together, then that would maybe be tough because then we'd be making things apart. And I mean, lots of people do that, but it was just this moment of tension of trying something and of expectations and hope. And we made this short film in my backyard, like a spoof commercial. And we had such a good time and loved doing it. And truly, like, working with him, making movies with Matt is my favorite thing to do. We have a really good rapport and a pretty good balance. Sometimes the running the business part of it and the stress of that, you know, that can absolutely take its toll. And we both have to be sure that we are focused on projects with other people and individual time for ourselves in addition to the time we spend together. So I have a co-writer that I write with and other collaborators I work with. And that's very satisfying because then when we come together and make things together, we can really focus on that, but we have that other outlet. I'm not always great at making sure I'm making time for just me. And I find for my creative process and my mental health, if I'm not making sure that I'm have time to just let things percolate, let things inspire me, just be with myself, I can get really overwhelmed. So, you know, it's a balancing act and learning each other's needs and quirks. But I love it.
Yeah.
We're very lucky. We're incredibly lucky.
I'm so glad it worked out that you both enjoyed working together. Because, I mean, if it sounds like it's something you both were hoping would happen. And like, if you both didn't like working, or not even, maybe even worse, if one of you, like if he really enjoyed working with you, but if you didn't enjoy working with him or vice versa, would have just been this weird little tension and like hopefulness, but not. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And I think it is very vulnerable when you show someone you are really into, like something that you are creating, and that's like a piece of your soul. And then when they accept and celebrate that, I feel like it's so many steps up the like intimacy ladder. You know what I mean? Because it just feels like they're accepting who you are and you're showing them more of yourself. And they're like, yep, I love that. I'm in. And it feels wonderful.
Yeah, it's incredibly, incredibly intimate and definitely deepens our connection to work with each other. And what's also great is like I learn new things about him all the time through that process. And that's really lovely. We've been together now, you know, we've been together for 11 years and married for 9. And so it's like, it's lovely to be surprised by your partner and learn something new. And then also when he's directing, like Matt does a lot of different things. We both wear a lot of different hats, but when he's directing is like I love watching Matt direct. It's like the most exciting because he's so alive.
Yeah.
And so excited and curious. And it's thrilling. It's thrilling to watch the person you love be in their element, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, a friend of mine were just talking about the other day, like, it is so amazing, or it's so fun and like kind of contagious energy almost to watch anyone do the thing they love and or the thing they're really good at. Like, it's so it's so it's inspiring. Like, it makes you want to do the things that you love also.
Yes, and I think there's a flow. I think people get into a flow state.
Yeah.
Like when they are doing the thing, when they're aligned in the thing that really connects them to other people, to their purpose. I think the whole energy in the room shifts and everybody goes, "Oh, that's possible. I could be that free. I could be that inspired. I could be in that." It's such an invitation. When you watch somebody who's right in the zone, it's such an invitation to you as the person watching it to go, "Oh my God, I could get on board this. It's like a train starts going and you can go with it." And I think that really does like totally change the energy of the room. And I've witnessed it, I've witnessed it on sets where people come onto sets and, movie sets and TV sets. And like, there's a lot of shit that happens and they can be pretty terrible places. And people have a lot of bad experiences and their long days. And, and everyone is coming into the space with their own personalities, their own baggage, their own needs, their own life. And so I've witnessed it where people come on set and because of Matt's demeanor, they've completely shifted the way that they approach their work. And they're like, oh, you're not gonna blame me, or you're not gonna yell at me, or you're not gonna, there's an opening here. And that can really shift the whole vibe in a really great way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's such a great energy.
I
Also, I love that you.
Matt this whole time.
No, I want to talk about you. I love Matt, but I also love that in there you slipped in maybe subconsciously like, it's like a train, and I'm like, oh, like getting that green light highball train. I was like, look at this. Everyone drink every time we say train. Okay.
That's right.
But okay, so I want to. Speaking of Matt directing, I want to talk about you directing. So.
Okay.
Mother of all shows, this beautiful poster behind you.
Thank you.
Yes,
I was like, there were two possible locations for tonight. There was my desk, which has a whole bunch of stuff behind it.
Yeah.
But the lighting isn't as good. I was like, or am I going to sit in front of this poster?
You have to sit in front of the poster.
Shameless?
Yes.
It's a little bit shameless, but here it is. It is a beautiful poster. They did a beautiful job.
Oh,
so.
It's gorgeous. And it's a huge accomplishment. Absolutely. Truly, you should be doing everything right here in front of this poster and be having video. You should be eating in front of it, like all of it.
I'm trying to obscure because if I move, I'm also
face.
on the poster, and I could also just like.
You could also fill it in perfectly, like almost profile, but not quite. Oh yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it.
Three-quarter?
Oh my God. Wow, it's a 3D poster. That's amazing. Well, okay, so Mother of All Shows, feature film, not only is Mother of All Shows, and I'm not telling you this, but not only, because you know this, not only is it your directorial debut, but the film won Outstanding Director of a Narrative Feature and Outstanding Narrative Feature at this year's Art of Brooklyn Film Festival. Amazing. And I love that on your Instagram you had an unpackaging of the beautiful awards. I loved it so much.
Thank you.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. One of the gentlemen who runs that festival, who is delightful, his name's Anthony DeVito. And he's this, Italian American from Brooklyn. And when I met him, immediately I was like, we understand each other.
I get you.
As an Italian Canadian, there was just a level of like anxiety and stress that I was like, we see each other.
Same wavelength.
Yeah. So he was so anxious about these awards arriving because I couldn't be there to accept them. And so he kept messaging me and then they delivered them and I wasn't home.
Oh no!
To receive them, and there was like they needed me to sign for them, and so I ended up having to go get them because they didn't leave me any information. It was like it was like a courier service not being great. Yeah. Anyway, but I knew he was so stressed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this unboxing and I'm going to make a big show of, on top of being very proud of them.
Yeah.
I also wanted Anthony to be like, Anthony, it's okay.
I got them.
And he messaged me. He's like, thank you so much.
Of course he did. Oh, That's so sweet. Oh,
like,
what a
I get
caring
it.
act. It was also just fun to watch. I love people unwrapping, unboxing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I loved it, but I watched your video and I was like, this is fun. Does she have anything else she's going to open? Like, open the mail
Okay,
on
I'll
your
do more.
Instagram.
If this is a request, I'll do more.
Yeah, I love it.
That's good.
This is
I'll
a
do
formal
it.
request. This is a request.
Okay.
Okay, so choosing to have your directorial debut, and I know you've co-directed, but like choosing to direct your first feature film on a film that you're also starring in is both incredibly gutsy and very admirable. And also, are you tired? Like, what was the well, I'm like, also so much work, but also amazing, and like, honestly, sounds like a dream experience. So what was, not to put words in your mouth, what was that experience like of directing and starring in this feature that also like you co-wrote? Like, I'm like, yeah, how was that experience? So many hats.
It was a lot, but it was also, I have to say, like, I've done my whole life, this is what I've done in theater. When I started as an actor, I was making my own shows. I had my own dance company when I was in high school, and I would choreograph numbers on them, and we would, you know, tour in our suburb and do things like that. But so I've always been, this is always what I've wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Is be a part of the creation of the thing and be in the thing and see it through to the end. So it made a lot of sense to me. When we were co-writing it, David and I, my co-writer, I wasn't convinced I was going to be in it. I had a lot of worry about that. And not so much from the standpoint of could I do it, because I knew with Matt there as a co-DP, as a co-director helping, you know, as my right hand, and I had co-directed with him as the lead director, so I had that experience. I knew I'd be okay. It was more a sense of like, should I do it? Am I the right actor for it? Which was funny. And I remember my therapist saying to me, because I was debating it and talking it out in my therapy session, as I do, and she said, let me get this straight. So it's somewhat based on things that have happened to you. The person has to dance and sing and be funny and be dramatic and all these. You've written it with all of your skills in mind. You only have a short period of time to make it, so you don't have a lot of time to necessarily, you know, do lots of takes and all of that. And you think maybe you should hire somebody else. Like, she asked me in this way that was so hilarious. And I said, yeah, well, good point. And everybody kind of said that to me. And then I thought about, you know, Barbra Streisand, who I adore. And because there's a lot of examples of men who've done this, but I wanted an example of a woman. And there are lots of women who do it. I mean, you look at Tina Fey, who, you know, wrote and starred in a lot of things, or at least was the creator of and starred in things. And there's plenty of women, Kristen Wiig, like there's actually a lot of women who do it, not usually directing though. And so when I was thinking about Barbra Streisand and how much I adore her, and how much Barbra Streisand decades ago was like, I'm going to direct it, and I'm going to star in it, and I'm going to produce it, and I'm going to be really exacting about it. And everyone's going to make comments about that. And that's fine, because I know how I want it to be. And there was that's such a gift, right? And I really did understand it in a way that I felt it should be me. So then once I decided we were going to go that way, then it was really about training. It was about being prepared. So it was about, you know, I had, no, go ahead.
No, sorry. No, I was just, that's actually, I'm so interested in that because I watched, what was it? Oh, it was a conversation with you and Andre, who also works at Highball, who also director.
Comes from casting.
It comes from casting. Yes, I know Andre very well. Huge fan. Love Andre. Made me
Andre.
so secretly creepy happy when I was like, oh my God, Andre's working at Highball with Melissa and Matt. It made me so happy. Anyway, but yes, I saw you and Andre chatting about experiences of directing and directorial debuts, and you had mentioned like something that's so important is stamina for a director, and that's something that you had been working on in leading up to the filming of Mother of All Shows. It's like, I'm working on my stamina. I think that's such an interesting piece. Like, I think it's second nature for people to think of actors working through their script or working on an accent or researching, and directors working on shots and shotlet, like all that stuff.
But the actual stamina part, I have never heard anybody say it other than you and the individual that you had mentioned said it.
Right.
Also, yeah. So
who had said that? It was
it Ian?
Ridley
Was that
Scott,
a name?
maybe? I think it was Ridley Scott.
Okay, maybe Ridley.
Yeah.
Ian? I'm like, who's Ian?
Ian, famous director.
You know that
Ian.
coffee shop barista Ian said that. So I would love, like, what was the preparation leading up to it? It can be creative, it can be the stamina part. Like, what went into preparing to direct and star in this film?
Well, I was lucky because I had to dance in it and I had to sing in it, and I hadn't done either of those. It was tap dancing and it was singing, and I hadn't done either of those publicly, professionally in a long while. So there was a certain amount of just getting back into shape that way, or getting back into conditioning. And so I had to keep up with that. And then I basically made sure that on the day I was so prepared in every department, every way, that whatever came at me, I could handle. Because the thing about being a director is, on the day, you're just bombarded with questions. You have to make so many choices. There are always problems. There are always compromises. So for me personally, I knew, for my state of mind, and in order to be open to all of that and not be like, I need to go focus on this and be defensive about anything or be anxious about anything, that I had to feel really secure about everything going in. So for me, it was a really rigorous schedule. And so my time was divided up between, voice prep and singing and working with my singing coach, and, because we had to record the song ahead of time, and then working on it so I could lip sync, in the ways that I needed to accurately, and then dancing. And then I was doing a lot of conditioning, just like, regular physical conditioning, to have the physical stamina, to work long hours, to, just even as an actor in this film, I have to do so many bizarre things. I wrote, David and I wrote a script where I have to do the craziest things, because there's a whole fantasy part of the film that's my character imagining herself and her cousin in these different scenarios, these fantasy scenarios where, like, there's a jousting match, there's wrestling, I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger, action superhero. Like, it's all so crazy. And so I was like, okay, I have to have, as an actor, I need a certain amount of stamina and fitness. As a director, I need a certain amount of stamina and energy. And I was working with this osteopath, and I still do, who was talking about, I was telling him about it. And of course, because of how I am, and I mentioned this before, like my Italian Canadian anxiety and overthinking and analytical self, I was like, okay, I was fixating on it. He said, all you have to focus on is recovery. You basically have to, get to the skill level and the fitness level you need to be, and make sure you have recovery. You're pushing yourself during the day. You're pushing your muscles, you're pushing your to your edge, and then active recovery, things that bring your body back into rest. And I think when I was growing up, a lot of what I interpreted as rest or recovery was actually kind of collapse. Like, I just grew up in an environment where, like, you would be, people would be so tired because they're working really hard and they have families and, like, all of the stuff that is legitimately exhausting in life, and groceries and laundry and all the things. And then rest looked like a kind of collapse that I don't actually think all the time was really rejuvenating or restful. And so I had to start asking myself, like, what is actually recovery for me? What does that look like? And that was also helpful during the film shoot, because when I had downtime, when you're not sleeping, which mostly you're just trying to get enough sleep. But on the weekends, it was like, okay, what does recovery look like? How can I wake up and have the energy and the outlook I need to keep going? And then, of course, in the midst of all of that training and all of that focus was paperwork and blocking and storyboarding and meetings and costume meetings and production meetings and all the stuff, right? but I love, like, the thing for me is like that kind of tired I love. It is so invigorating for me when I'm focused on a creative project and I'm doing all of those parts. That is when I feel the most alive. That's like it gives me just as much energy as it takes for me.
Yeah.
I find the time between projects where there isn't that active pursuit, that's the hardest for me.
Yeah.
And it's also hard, I think, sometimes to like self-motivate in those moments because, you're just tired of being the engine. So I like deadlines and I like high pressure situations because they push me into a space where I'm actually really, where I thrive,
Oh, that's so many things that you just said hit me so well. But being tired of being a part of the engine, that is so, I mean, I guess that goes back to the whole like actors kind of the whole business part of it and like building that business for yourself and who you are. It can be, you're like, I don't want to be the whole engine right now. Like, I just want to be in the creating of it and in the making of it and the decisions and the collaboration and all that. I'm with you. Like, I get so energized, like a day on set. And you're right. Even when you're on set, it's like the time in between while you're waiting, if you're acting in it and you don't have any other hats to wear, it's like the time between where they're resetting the lights, that's the most tired you are. But when you're actually doing the thing, you're not tired. It's just when you're like, sit and wait.
Just so joyous.
Yeah,
it's like it's so invigorating. And I think too, we all need champions. We all need people to get on board who are excited about the things we're excited about. That's such a human need, a connection. We all want connection in that way. And I think making movies is the greatest job in the world. Like, I can't even believe that I get to do it. It's because you walk on set and yes, you've done a ton of work. And it's funny, someone commented on that video of me and Andre and they were like, well, the director, they're the person, pushing all these other people to have to work so hard on set, which is a good point. Like grips and gaffers and camera ops and people who work long hours, like everyone on set has to navigate this in their own way. And every job and every department has its own particular struggles and requirements, and everyone has to, and frankly, I think sometimes we don't look at, below the line and crew and people who are working really hard and often don't get the luxury of making, space for recovery and having that. But I think that the glorious thing about it is you get to go into an environment where a bunch of people are there to supplement what your vision is. It's an incredible thing. And they bring to the table, like the first couple of days of Mother of All Shows, we worked with this first AD and we had worked with him once before this. I think it might have been once before this. And we loved working with him. He is just the best. So incredible human and a marvelous first AD. And the first AD on set, for those who don't know, is, the person who runs the set. They schedule things, they keep everything moving and on time. They are, they're the person running the set. The set is theirs. More than the director. The director's there to make sure, the take works. But really that first AD is it's
like, let's go, director. Time is money. Let's go. Move it. You get one more take, like, director. Yeah.
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 Like, such an important position. And so we were kind of like a little bit at odds the first couple of days. And I was like, and we both were a little bit like, what's happening? We worked together. I had co-directed with Matt and it was great. And so we sat down at the end of the second day, and what we realized actually through talking it through was that we were both not letting I wasn't letting him do more of his job. I walked on set and as a first time lead director, and because it was me acting and I felt so much pressure, I really felt like I had to show up and know everything. And I felt like I had to show up and I had to push everything. And I think we often have this idea of directors, which is so skewed and so problematic, because I think it's also why we often think men are better directors than women, which is false. or non-binary people, like man as director. I think part of it is because we look at it as this like aggressive, take charge, I run the thing, I know everything, this attitude, where actually that is not my experience. I think it's actually much, much better when the person directing is listening and taking everybody's ideas into account and collaborating. And, you know, when I started to let Colin, our first AD, when I started to let him take charge in the ways he needed to and be there for me and offer up ideas in ways that actually like everybody on that set had so many better ideas than I could have had in the moment, so many of the times. But that's why they're there. And I'm there to say, yeah, great. I like that one. I like that one. Let's do that one. So I get to then from that fashion something, but the ideas are coming from every single person on that team, from the PA and the driver to the first AD and the costume designer. Like, it's the collaborative element of it is the thing. You know, it's like, that's where the magic happens. It's not the person at the top of the heap dictating, which I think is still largely, there's still sometimes that feeling. And I didn't think I had that bias, you know, I thought I was like very evolved, very progressive and like very feminist and like looked at it in this new way. And then I got on set and subconsciously I was doing all these things that were actually standing in my way. And I had to go, I don't have to do that. Actually, I can be present as myself and solve problems with the team. And I don't have to know everything here. In fact, it's better that I don't. It's good that I don't know everything, because A, I can't know everything, and B, we're going to make a better movie with other people's input. So that was I learned so much through that process.
Yeah. And that it's not, I guess, not a, well, I think in two ways, like that the new mindset or just the reminder of the mindset you probably already had, honestly, like in your heart and in your core, that like it was collaborative and all those things, which is, seems very much how you work anyway. The reminder of that is, it's like, yeah. And also that their ideas and those contributions aren't a threat to your vision or how you see the story, because ultimately the director still gets to be that filtration. Like, they still get the final say. They still get to say, yes, that idea. And it's really just like, it sounds like being open to hear all of those ideas. And I think it also helps for people who want to direct. Like, so often I have like actor friends or writer friends or friends who make, you know, who will film their own sketches, and they're like, I want to direct, but I don't know how a camera works, or I don't know this. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think you have to. Like, that you have a DP for a reason. You have a gaffer for a reason. Like, yes, having an appreciation and an idea for all of those different areas and how they work is wonderful and probably necessary, like a basic understanding. And it will make the whole team work better, just like a director who has acted, I think, makes them better at working with actors. But that's why they're there. Like, that's what you lean on them for, is their expertise. You don't have to be an expert in everything to then be worthy of directing something.
No, and I think this is a huge thing, and I've had a lot of imposter syndrome around it. I know some technical things, and I started out, I was an editor, a story editor in lifestyle television for years as my day job.
Oh, I saw Rich Bride, Poor Bride. I watched that show. Melissa, that is so fucking cool. I read that and I was like, what?
Listen,
okay, anyway, sorry to cut you off.
It was the craziest job. I watched so many weddings, and
I watched so many weddings,
and so many crazy things happened. And you know, it was, I often say to people who want to write or direct that they should learn how to edit.
How
editing
come?
Because editing was an invaluable learning process, because editing teaches you so much about storytelling. You know, my job on Rich Bride, Poor Bride was literally, they would hand me all the footage and I would
God,
cut
so much. Like
so much.
reality
And
TV, I feel so bad for
funny.
the editors, honestly. It's so much footage.
And it's funny, it was so much footage. It's funny because there were 3 different directors and they were all had totally different styles. There was one who got like a pretty standard amount of footage, and one who got so much more, double the amount of footage
oh
that
my
you needed,
God.
and one that sometimes didn't give you even enough. So
I was like, this is a short film, a one-off short film from this director.
I was like, sorry, how much? You have 9 minutes? 9 minutes of
9
footage
minutes.
to cut the scene for the wedding dress on a wedding show. Anyway, so you're dealing with different styles, different people, different ways of working. And so then I would have to cut a really, long version of the show, the episode. And I would make decisions about what order the scenes would go in outside of the sort of act 1 and the last act where they have templates and a framework. And I would piece together scenes in the way that I thought was compelling. So I was the first person after the producer and the director and casting and however that pre-production went and production, I was the first post-production person who was building the story.
Yeah.
And then the editor, the actual editor, so I would watch it with the executive producer. She would flag things, I would change things and then give it to the editor. And the editor, who was incredible, would work all kinds of magic that I couldn't do because I was just an assistant editor and I didn't have that kind of finesse. But I learned so much about arcs, about acts, about storytelling, about character in a way that I hadn't learned from the studying I had done as an actor, the studying I had done as a writer, because I had studied those things and those were very valuable. But this was a whole other thing, because what happens then is when you're on set or when you're writing your script, you're already imagining how it can come together. And that is so valuable in terms of how you're going to build the arcs, the story, the characters, but also it's so valuable on the day when you're shooting, because when you're making your shot list and you are determining what you're going to get, and there are always those times on set where you're going to have to sacrifice a shot.
Yeah.
You're going to have to move on.
It makes me nervous just hearing you say that. Like, I know, but like being like, you're going to have to sacrifice a shot. I'm like, huh. Like, I think if I was directing, I would come up with, like, if I needed to come up with 10 shots, I would come up with 20 so that I already had the babies to sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like, I already knew which ones I'm sacrificing.
Well, yeah, so I mean, the best way to tackle that is when you're building your shot list and your storyboards is what you need to get. So you need these 3 setups.
Yeah.
And if you get these 3 setups, you can tell this story. You can cut it together, but you know that because you've cut things together. And so as you're blocking it out and you're arranging it, you're like, well, I'm going to need a close-up on this person. I'm going to need a 2-shot. I'm going to need an insert. And I'm going to need, these are the 4 components I need to tell this story. Then you make,
your gravy list
of the other shots.
Your cherry on top.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, if you're working with a great first AD and everything is running on time, you can get those gravy shots and it's fantastic. And then in editing, you can always do all kinds of other things to the footage to help you out. The things I've learned in working with Matt as an editor around, let's do a post-production zoom, let's crop it out, let's do a tilt shift, we can manipulate the footage. So, but again, the more you know about that aspect of things as well, the more you know about visual effects.
Yeah.
The more you can look at it and go, okay, I have a better sense of what I need and what is nice to have. And I think to your point about feeling like you have to know about the technical aspects, I've had a lot of imposter syndrome around, cameras and gear like that, because I did not come from an education that taught me about that. And I'm always learning, and I know some things, but I don't know a lot, and I don't always retain it that well because of the technical aspects. I'm the type of person who needs to do something in order to really learn it. And so that's part of my process. But I absolutely do not need to know which camera and which lens needs to be used or which lights. That isn't necessary to be a director. Is it incredibly helpful? And is it really helpful for your confidence level to understand cameras and lenses and lights and setups and sound to a certain extent? Yes, because you will feel that much more confident in having those discussions. But it's not necessary. And it is also helpful. The more you can do yourself, the more you can make things, because finding teams of people can be a deterrent, you know, and being able to pay them, or finding the people that you get along with that have the same vibe as you, or any of those things.
Yeah,
right?
will understand your vision or things. Yeah,
but you don't have to. You can there are plenty of directors, great directors out there, who know very little about visual effects or cameras or lenses, know just the bare minimum, and direct huge movies, and certainly directed independent features knowing very little. So if anyone is listening who's nervous about that aspect of it, don't let that be the thing that stops you from trying, because you don't need to. You don't need to know every department. Again, that's why everyone else is there. They're specialists at that. Let them be specialists at it, and let them bring their ideas to you. And because then they also have ownership over the project, and they feel invested in it. Whereas if you come in and you know how to do everything and you're just telling people where to go, that's not nearly as exciting for people, you know, who are working on the project either.
Yeah. It's like how we were talking earlier about how sometimes it's nice in those like gig Joe jobs of like me going into serving, and then when I clock out, I'm out, and I don't have to have that like emotional caring. People aren't working on movies to like, people are there because they're passionate about the industry or about the specific skill that they are bringing to the table. So the more it's like the opposite of the serving. Invite everyone to be managers, like on a film set. Don't have them just come in and feel like, do your job and get out, and we don't really need to hear from you. That's thrilling in maybe a serving industry, but on a film set or collaboratively, like putting some artistic project together, I'm with you. Like, I think the more people feel like they're able to voice or input their voice into this project, then the more ownership they feel over it. Yeah. And the more invested they are, and the more engaged they are in the whole thing. And it doesn't mean that it has to dilute your vision. Also, I guess, is like, it doesn't have to.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is, if you're having that feeling of doubting it or nervousness, then before I did my first color grade session for Mother of All Shows, and the color grade process on Mother of All Shows, where you make corrections for any issues that came up in camera, but also sometimes, saturate things, put filters on things, that part of the process. I didn't know a lot about that process, and it was complicated for my film because it's a period film. There are scenes that have to look like the 70s, scenes that have to look like television in the 80s, scenes that have to look like television in the 90s.
Yeah, you really didn't give yourself like an easy, like when I watched the trailer, Melissa, I'm like, I'm sorry, hold on. There's green screens. You're tap dancing. Also, you were a badass tap dancer in the trailer.
Thank you. You're
in a plane at one point. You have sitcom setups. You have, did I say green screen? Animation. Like, I was like, wow. Yeah. She didn't phone it in. She wasn't like, give me an easy film to direct.
Honestly, I threw everything at it because I was like, maybe I'll never make another one of these, and this is it. And so I might as well throw it all in. And because David and I had chosen this variety show format, and that's what variety shows are. And that was the thrill of it, But because of that, for, a couple of weeks leading up to that color session, I watched every YouTube video I could find, and I pulled screen grabs, film grabs from, there's a site where you can take film grabs from other films. And
amazing.
I built like a reference sheet, and I leaned into it. I leaned into the thing that I was insecure about. And I knew that I would walk into that studio, that color grade studio, and I would not know nearly as much as other directors do. And I certainly won't know a fraction of what the colorist knows. But I had enough knowledge that when the conversation started, I could feel confident enough to try and articulate what I wanted, because ultimately that's what's important. The director needs to be able to clearly articulate what they need from everyone else on set. And so the more you understand the language and the technology it's just easier for you to take the thing that's in your head or on your storyboard or your, you know, in your lookbook and translate it so that those crew members can give you what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So when I look at it that way, then it doesn't feel daunting or like I need to know more. It feels like I'm driven to know as much as I can so I can communicate as clearly as I can. Mm-hmm. It's just another set of tools, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And in that, it's like, you know, how you had said earlier, a lot of us think of directing as like the male director. It's like, well, if you think about it, that the biggest strength or ability that a director needs is communication skills and articulation to others. I mean, we've been conditioned to do that since we were out of the womb. So, I mean, maybe I'm going to direct something tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe.
I think you should. Oh my God, yes. In fact, you've said it here now.
I've said it here.
And I can't wait to see it.
So sweaty now, Melissa, as soon as I say it. Okay, I want to do a 1 minute rapid fire with you. Right before I do that, I just have one more question because I'm just so curious. So Wendie Malack plays your mom. Like,
she does.
Should we take a fucking moment for that? Everyone drink for Wendie Malack. I was like, I literally, when I saw it, I was like, hold on a second, no way. And I went to the IMDb of the movie. Okay, how did Wendie Malack become involved in the film? And I'm sorry if this is a long, I'm not trying to give you a long question right now before, but
I'm happy.
How the heck did that happen?
Talk about Wendie Malack. Yeah. I'm sorry if I talked for a long time about it, but
no, fucking Idol. How did that happen? You're also an idol, to say, but how did that happen?
Oh, come on. Well, how did it happen? We had been, looking at Canadian actors to play it, and it was such a specific role, and so the casting process is complicated when you're looking for somebody like it was a person who had to lead the film. They had to sing, they had to dance, they had to be funny. Like there's a monologue in the film that's like a Johnny Carson, Phyllis Diller style monologue, that at the time was like 8 pages long, and it was it was a lot, and this person had to do so much, and there's big emotional scenes, and so we were like, okay, who's this person going to be? And we were talking about people. And one of my producers, he gave me a list of names of people he thought we could reach out to. And there was a name on the list of an actor that I loved. And I was like, okay, well, let's reach out to this person and this person. And we're sort of going down the list and seeing who we should send the script to. And I made a joke. I texted him about something and I said, yeah, call her up. And I was like, obviously I don't mean call her up directly. I mean, call her agent. Like we were having a banter back and forth. And I said, obviously you don't know her. And he said, well, the only actress on this list that I know is Wendie Malack. And I went, I'm sorry, how do you know Wendie Malack?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I had a conversation with her people and her about a project years ago, and it never went through, but she's lovely. And so I've talked to her. And I was like, well, I love Wendie Malack. And David and I, the funniest thing about that was when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with a show called Dream On. So my family had an illegal cable box where like you could watch cable channels for free and pay-per-view for free. So like I would just watch everything. I watched Strictly Ballroom one summer every day, multiple times a day because I could, because I didn't have to pay for it. And so
just because
I was
can.
That kid.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like injected into my eyeballs. So I was watching this HBO show called Dream On, which is a show with starring Brian Benben, and Wendie Malack plays his ex-wife. And the whole concept of the show is whenever this guy has a feeling or a thought, they jump to a clip from a black and white movie or television show that is his subconscious thought.
No way.
Yeah, so I was obsessed with the show.
Yeah.
It was also very sexual and very adult, and I was like 13.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God, yes, I want to see all the sexy things. And it was thrilling, right? Because it's like you shouldn't be, and it was exciting. And it was such a great show, and she was so good in it. And so while we were writing Mother of All Shows, I brought up Dream On all the time as one of the reference points because it left such a mark on me, that concept of like popping into using television and film as a way to express thoughts and that kind of escapism and that kind of humor. So when I said to our producer, I was like, well, we'd love her and this would be amazing. Like, sure, like send her the script. He's like, great. he sends her the script. She loves the script.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, great. And then I keep thinking, I mean, I'm
Like,
a Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm a Canadian independent filmmaker. I've never made a film on my own.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way something's going to fall apart here.
Yeah.
The finance, it's not going to be enough money for her. There's going to be an immigration thing. There's something, scheduling.
Yeah.
Like, there's a million things that have to fall into place for somebody to be able to join, somebody of her caliber to join a movie. And it just kept going and going, and they kept saying yes. And then all of a sudden, I had just gotten a vaccine for COVID. We had come home, and I was like, a little bit, starting to get a little bit out of it from the vaccine, a little bit of chills, a little bit of exhaustion. And all of a sudden, Wendie Malack's calling me. And I'm like, oh my God. So I pick up the phone, and I'm so nervous. Talk about flop sweat. I'm so nervous. And she is like, Melissa, it's Wendie Malack. And it's just like immediately just sort of there.
Yeah.
And we have this incredible conversation. And we talk about the script, and she talks about what she likes about it, and she's like, I guess we're gonna do this. We're gonna jump off a cliff together, like, and it'll be like we're making a play. It'll be like we'll go to a small town and we'll do this play. And I had no idea that she came from theater and that she came from those roots, which are the roots I came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her about Dream On, and she said, she's like, that show changed her career, because up until that point, she was seen as a serious actor. She's very tall. She's got such presence. So she was cast a lot as, a lawyer or
serious,
whatever, all the casting tropes that we fall into, all the typecasting. And then she did Dream On, and people saw she could be funny, and it opened the floodgates for her to do Just Shoot Me and Cotton Cleveland and Frasier and BoJack Horseman and all the amazing things she's done. So we have this incredible conversation, and I hang up and I think, well, here's the thing. If this doesn't happen, if it falls apart, because it still could.
Yep.
I had the conversation of a lifetime with one of my idols, and it was wonderful, and it was fantastic. And so then it all happened, and she showed up, and she was incredible. I mean, not only was she incredible to work with, like as a director to direct Just a Dream, as an actor to act across from her, it made me feel the way I felt when I first started acting, in the way when I really wanted to be an actor, like so alive, so present. But also she's just like the most beautiful human. And that's so, that doesn't always happen,
and you made that, like, you made that happen also. I just want to point out, like, you created this company to be able, and then you wrote this. I know it's not done alone, but you created this company and then wrote this film, and that, like, you made all of this happen. Like, actor you is like, oh my God, thanks, Melissa. You know what I mean? Like, just even when you're talking about it, but being like, I got to direct Wendie Malack. I got to act across from Wendie Malack for like majority of the movie. Like, that is incredible. And the fact that it's such a like a Canadian artist story about, like, I wanted to be an artist, and so I had to create opportunities for myself, and not everybody is able to find the ways to do that, and for no lack of like talent and things on their own. But I think it is like so fucking empowering to think of, I don't know, everything that you're doing, and the fact that, like, you in those moments when you are acting across from Wendie Malack, and then you call cut, and then you direct her. It's like you're doing all of that. Like, you made all of that happen. It is so fucking incredible, Melissa. It really is. Like, it is such.
Thank you.
So I hope when you do get to take a little break, you just like cheers the fuck out of yourself, because that is so incredible to create that. Really, like, to create that moment.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Yeah. It's been I think life is a series of, like, I think the idea of luck is a combination of, yes, sometimes it really just is the right timing, and you had very little to do with that timing. But I think there is a putting yourself in the situations where that timing could pan out. And I think for part of my life, I wasn't doing that because I was afraid or I don't know, I didn't value myself enough. And then I think I started to, that changed at some point. And I do think that you have to throw yourself into those situations. Too often we say, oh, well, that's never going to happen. Or, oh, I don't think, because it's scary. It's so scary to ask somebody to read a thing you wrote and maybe say, and then when they say yes, there's a whole other flood of fears.
Yeah. Even when she said yes, you were like, I'm sure it won't happen. Like it's exact. It wasn't same. Like I would have done the same. It wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to do this. It was like, no, I'm sure scheduling. Like something is bound to pop up to not make this dream come true, Yeah.
And
it's so much easier.
Think I'm learning slowly to like what Matt does, which is not that. Matt is always like, it's probably going to happen. Matt's attitude is, it's probably going to happen.
Bless Matt.
And if it doesn't, he knows that he's going to be able to roll with it.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's about trust, that it's like, it may or it may not happen, but whether it happens or not, something is still going to move forward here. And also I'm trying really hard to let myself want things. Desire is such a complicated thing for me, and like shame around desire, and like really saying out loud, I really want this movie to do this. I really want that actor, and owning that is still a really big process for me, of a process of being, of wanting it and not attaching myself to it, right? Of saying like, I want this thing and gosh, I really hope it happens, but also not attaching so much to it, that outcome, that if it doesn't happen, I'm derailed, right? Yeah. This is the dance all the time for me. I'm like, how do I stay in this dance with myself?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that's just continuing to be put in those situations and take those risks and learn from the risks,
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. And telling yourself like, exactly, when, if it all falls apart, I'll be fine. If the thing doesn't happen, I'll be fine. And also, if it does happen, I don't want to have spent all that time thinking it wouldn't have. Like I robbed myself of celebrating all that time because I was just waiting for like the house to fall apart instead of celebrating the great house that I have. Like I do the same. Yeah. I'm saying this as much to me as you. Like, yeah, same. That it's so hard. But I love what you said of like, I just had a conversation about Dream On with Wendie Malack. Like just period. She's probably going to be in the movie. If she's not, I can pick up the pieces. And in those moments where everything falls apart and you do pick up the pieces, it's like, you better really cement that in your brain too, to remember, look, I did it. Like it fell apart. I was super disappointed and I picked myself up and kept going. Let's remember that too.
And no is the second best answer. Yes is the best answer. No is the second best answer. Maybe is the worst answer, and or no answer at all, right?
Oh yeah.
And no, the number of times that it hasn't worked out with an actor to have them in the movie, or they weren't the right fit, or they didn't love the thing. And then the there was one actor once that wrote me this gorgeous letter about a project that then she couldn't be in, and it was so moving and wonderful. And I thought, well, that's an incredible experience I just had. The number of times in my life I've gotten to be around a person that I was inspired by growing up acting, and have that person genuinely do or say something that is so moving and lovely. And that's so heartening. It's such a gift of this business, So like, yes, we should cherish those moments because they are few and far between. And when they happen, my God, those are the moments when imagine little, like I used to think, what if little kid Melissa could look at me now? And it's funny because there's a little kid version of the character I play who is also sort of somewhat based on me.
It's also
like,
meta.
It is, But like, it is. But it's like if little kid me could see me now.
Yeah.
Making things and with people that I was watching on TV and going, oh my God, that person's in a TV show, and wouldn't it be great to be in a TV show? It's like, those are the moments as you said, you have to like breathe those moments in and think like, man, what a crazy, awesome ride and what an amazing life.
Yeah.
And enjoy them and try and put all the anxiety or fear to the other side long enough to feel that joy for that little kid. That little kid deserves a celebration around
Hell
that.
yeah.
You know?
Hell yeah. You at least have to absorb that as much as you absorb the anxieties. Like at least let them be on even playing field. Ideally, you absorb it more, but at least on even playing field.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm with you on that. Okay, to end today, I just want to do a very quick 1 minute. I have a flashback lightning round. Okay, so 8 years ago, Melissa, you did a lightning round for a radio interview. And I am going to ask you the exact same questions. And then afterwards, I'm going to see if your answers have changed in 8 years.
What? Yep. Oh my God, this is next level research. Okay.
Oh my God, well, thank you so much. I take that as a huge compliment. Okay, one of the questions I did change slightly. I'll let you know afterwards, and you'll know why I changed it, but I'll let you know afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
Melissa, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. What is your favorite animal?
Otter.
Great. Favorite type of wood?
Cedar.
Which Monopoly piece are you?
I'm the little guy with the hat.
Great. AM, FM, or ham radio?
FM.
Do you understand how helicopters work?
Vaguely.
When was the last time you openly cried in public?
Oh, today.
Perfect. What do you get when you fall in love?
You only get, oh fuck, I know it's a lyric. I want to say the lyric. What you get when you fall in love? I don't know, a lifetime of happiness.
Oh, cute. Okay, I'm going to tell you. So they had asked you what your spirit animal is 8 years ago, which not on them. People, So favorite animal. So you had
we've
said,
evolved. We've evolved.
But I just wanted to point it out because I do understand that those might be different answers. So you had said raccoon, which I fucking loved. I was like,
you know what's? Did I say raccoon?
Yeah.
So you don't understand raccoons? Raccoons fuck with me. Like,
that's why you're like, I must have been one.
I probably said it because I was like, raccoons fuck with me. And for a while, I was like, a lot of nocturnal animals were fucking with me. Like, and when I say fuck with me, I mean like, one time I was cycling home after a catering gig. It was like 2 a.m, and I get to a stoplight and I stop on my bike, and this raccoon slowly comes out and just stops and stares me down. And I was like, what's going to happen now? And then I was doing a show. I'll be quick. I'm going to be quick, but I have to tell you this. I was doing a show in the Honest Ed's alleyway, RIP Honest Ed's. And it was this show where I had to take my clothes off. It was like, there was a sheet, and I would backlight the sheet, and I would have this whole banter with the person in the audience trying to sell them a mattress. It's a ridiculous show. And at the same time, I would be stripping and changing into a costume. And so I was the whole joke was like, I'm being provocative and like strip teasing and being like, what size mattress do you need? How much is it going to cost? So, and it's my silhouette, right? Because I'm backlit. And so I'm in Honest Ed's alleyway getting naked, and I look over, and there's a fire escape, and there's just a family of raccoons coming down and like heading toward me. And I'm like, this is great. Like in my mind,
like fabulous.
I'm like, am I going to be attacked by raccoons naked in Honest Ed's alleyway? Backlit. Do they think this is a part of the show? That's my biggest fear. They might have.
No. When no one helps you because they're just like, wow, oh my God, she even got raccoons for the show. And you're like,
this
no,
is
I'm being
crazy
eaten.
Effect.
So did they come close?
They did not.
No. Okay, good.
That whole thing ended before they did. But then raccoons were everywhere and following me around. And my therapist was like, and then a skunk followed me once, and she was like, oh, there's a lot of nocturnal animals. I wonder if like there's something about that, about like your shadow or like being in the night. And I was like, I don't know, but it is stressful.
I mean, even
because
that
Toronto
family
is full of raccoons.
Oh, and also and skunks. Oh yeah. Like I would rather that like deers were fucking with me, because I'm like, great, I'll stay in the city, I'm fine. Raccoons, you're screwed with that. Even that family, I'm like, were they? Yeah. Like were they just like power tripping you? You know what I mean? That one in your show too.
Probably.
Like,
I don't trust a raccoon. So that's interesting that I said that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I have no recollection of doing that.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. And that's okay. But okay. So your animal, you had said raccoon, and you said otter this time, and then family,
which is weird. Otter is not my favorite animal, but you know, rapid fire.
Yes. And I know you're so and I'm like, oh, Melissa will be so up for like free association. Go with this. Like so good.
Yeah.
Favorite type of wood? Both times you said cedar. Like, okay.
I love cedar.
Okay, you love cedar. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
You said it so fast in like 8 years ago that I was like, either she already knows that is for sure her answer, or it was just the first wood that came to her mind. Cedar's beautiful. Which Monopoly piece are you? 8 years ago you said the slippery shoe thing, and today you said the one with the hat. So that's cute.
I don't know what. I never know exactly.
Yeah,
what
no,
they're
it's
like,
never specific. No. I'm impressed you can remember any of it. I'm like, I don't know. When I was watching the interview where you did it originally, I was like, oh, the rope.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's Clue. Like, what is Monopoly? I couldn't even remember the Monopoly pieces anyway. I think there's a
Monopoly's
die.
like there's an iron.
Oh, an iron. There's a
right?
dice,
I don't know.
right?
I don't play Monopoly often.
Yeah.
I feel like that answer is tricky that I said that because he's like just basically a giant capitalist, which I don't love.
No.
But whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Free association.
Yeah, free association.
I have to deal with it.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm gonna have to go with it. Fine. And then
Yep.
AM, FM, or ham radio. Last time you said ham radio because it sounds cool, and it actually led me to Google and be like, "What the fuck is ham radio?" And today you said FM,
Yeah.
which I think is me too. It's so much, makes so much sense. I did a bunch of research. I still don't really understand what ham radio is. So if anyone listening or watching knows, please, I
let us
welcome
know.
the explanation. I won't feel condescending. Do you understand how helicopters work? You said sort of before, and today vaguely. So I feel like that's
Vaguely.
like maybe,
I've gotten a little bit better,
I was gonna say
maybe.
you've gained a little bit, maybe more knowledge over the last 8 years about how helicopters work, which is great.
Amazing.
Honestly, we should all strive for that. When was the last time you openly cried in public? Last time you said yesterday, and today you said today. So you've also, you've
I'm
been through a
evolving.
lot in eight years. Okay.
That's right. I cry in public a lot.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't. That's yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you live in Toronto, I think it's just kind of how life goes, right?
Yeah, and you're in the public. I'm kind of like, if I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna cry. Like I don't know if there's appropriate places anymore. I don't even care anymore. It's just gonna happen.
No, I don't think. I mean, I laugh anywhere, and
Right.
So, like, if I'm gonna express my joy openly places, then why am I not gonna express my sadness or whatever the crying is about?
Thank you. If I'm gonna be
I
a
mean,
human, I'm
that's
gonna be a
just-
human, 100%. I
Exactly.
do try and
Yeah.
cry. I do try to hold. I don't want to cry when I have sunscreen on my face because then it burns. But otherwise, I don't care. I'm all
Yeah,
down. I'm all
that's
down
fair.
for it. Yeah. And then the last one was, what do you get when you fall in love? And last time you said happiness, and today you said a lifetime of happiness. I mean, you've
Look at this
been with Matt
evolution.
8 years longer, also.
Yeah,
So maybe it's just you're like,
that's true.
yeah, it's a lifetime. They were so surprised. They said no one had ever said that response. They always say like heartache or like despair or disappointment, and you were like, really? And I was like, yeah, I'm with Melissa. What the fuck is happening when people fall in love?
Falling in love's the best.
It's the fucking
But
best.
I mean,
Ugh.
sure, you can. Of course, there's heartache, but like, I would rather fall in love and have heartache. There's heartache anyway in life.
Mhm.
You don't. I don't have to fall in love to feel heartache. I feel heartache all day long. Today, I'm so sad. I was so sad before we jumped on this because Sinead O'Connor died, and I like Sinead O'Connor. Was one of the most influential artists for me growing up, and I was just like, I literally was just like, I don't know what to do about the fact that she died, and she's so young, and the world treated her so shittily, and she was so brave and so talented, and so I mean, like, I feel like heartache is around every corner.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather fall in love and then have my heart broken than not, you know?
Oh my God. See, we just have to adapt that into like, yeah, this is probably going to happen. And if it falls apart, it's worth being excited that it happens. We just have to take how we view love and put it into Wendie Malack. You know what I mean? Oh,
That's it.
That was great.
That's a good point. Well, falling in love, I have fallen in love with
Well,
Wendie
yeah.
Malack, so
Haven't we?
that's-
Yeah. Honestly.
She's this wine tonight.
Yeah.
Little pitch. Josh. is what it's
Josh.
called.
Hi, Josh.
She introduced this to me, Wendie Malack, this wine, and I love it.
Oh, such full circle.
Yeah, California wine.
Thanks, Wendie. Oh, thank you
Thanks,
so
Wendie.
much, Melissa, thanks, Wendie. And thank you, Melissa, for doing this. And I kept you longer, and I don't like to do that. You were
Oh God, Amanda, this was a treat.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh,
and I
you
talk
too.
so much. It is entirely my
I
fault.
love
Like,
You're so kind,
will-
but I fucking loved it. I love it. You,
amazing.
frankly, you didn't
too.
talk enough. I would have loved for you to talk more. That's what I should have said. Mostly just because
All right.
I
Well.
could hear you. You're also very well spoken, and you're very
Oh,
good.
thank you.
You're a very I can't even complete my sentence here in saying that you're a good speaker. But anyway,
You are a great speaker.
You
Don't
too.
even- You've brought it around. You've segued. This has been stellar hosting.
thank you
Just so you know.
much. God damn it. This has been stellar guesting, just so you know.
Thank you.
God damn it.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Your office is beautiful. Your husband is beautiful. I know one of your employees, and he's beautiful. You're beautiful. All wonderful humans. Everybody.
Likewise.
Oh my God. I can't wait until Mother of All Shows come out. Everybody check out HighballTV. Get over there. Greenlight that situation. And I can't wait for more chats with you. Who knows? And directing.
It'll be good. I'm going to give her.
Yeah, give her a little sip. She's been working hard.
There she goes.
You know?
Yeah, there she goes.
Oh, she got a little on her chin.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Liquid Courage podcast. If you liked what you saw and you're looking to support the show, here's a few ways you can help. You can leave the show a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or you can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Liquid Courage Podcast. Or, and best of all, you can tell a friend about the show. Tell a family member, tell a coworker, post about your favorite episode online. Spread the word. That really is the best way to help support the show and help it grow. Did I just rhyme? Okay, until the next episode, cheers.